Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. This is part 4 of season 1 of the Black Tapes episode titled A Tale of Two Tapes Part 1. We should be finishing up this episode and getting ready for the jumping into episode 2. So, without further ado, let's get into this thing.
Go ahead. My assistant's equipment was stolen, and we lost your photo. The one we took for our website? It will only take a few minutes. I'll be in and out. You'll barely notice I'm there.
Yeah, this is kind of a overlay from last week, and I still think that the scientist guy should be smarter than to go for what she's going after. But, you know, he may just be naive.
Fine.
I wasn't being completely honest with Strand. We did need another photo for the website, but my producers told me we were fine using his standard publicity picture. What I really wanted to do was get another look at something I saw in his equipment room. A row of numbered black VHS cases. It was when I asked Strand about those tapes that...
Yeah, I wonder if he's set her up, or if she set him up, or they're mutually setting each other up. It's interesting. Like I've said in previous things, this is me first time I'm listening this right along with you guys.
He shut down our interview. I wanted to know more. Thanks again for taking the time.
No problem at all.
I have something I'd like you to look at, if you have a moment. It's a ghost.
Really?
It's pretty convincing.
People are easily convinced.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, you just look around America right now. People are easily convinced.
This was pretty good. My ambush worked. Dr. Strand agreed to take a look at the footage from the credit union.
What's the event site?
Manteno, Illinois.
The Manteno State Hospital.
You know your hauntings.
Let's say alleged hauntings.
It's actually a building located on part of the old hospital site. I showed Strand the footage of the door mysteriously moving on its own, along with some footage my producer Nick took using his phone. Nick focused his camera on Dumont and her team's use of their highly advanced ghost hunting equipment.
Yeah, this should play out to be interesting.
The flashlight stuff. The whole deal. What do you think?
It's an automatic door. A trick switch somewhere.
The manager assured us that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about Ms. Dumont and her team? They claimed significant indicators of paranormal motion.
I'm sure they did. Let's function on their level for a moment.
Okay.
In purely scientific terms, which is something Emily Dumont knows very little about, their readings are completely invalid.
Why?
That guy holding the EMF meter.
Donnie.
Sure, Donnie. He's moving.
I have had that exact same attitude that this guy has had. I've had conversations where I've had that exact same, where someone will go, well, this is so and so. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've had those types of conversations.
He's waving the meter around like a lunatic.
So?
So, an electromagnetic field meter needs to be set in one place and left alone. Dr. Dumont is getting lazy.
What is this?
Cell tower locations in the area.
And their significant why?
EMF readings are compromised by a high volume of cell phone traffic.
Is this a high traffic area?
This area is one of the busiest cell tower cross-ping zones in the state.
And that's interesting. Well, it makes sense if you think about it, because the wireless nature of phones would be picked up by devices designed to pick up those things. You know, it's one of those things.
You can't trust EMF readings here.
What about the door?
The most important part of a paranormal investigation is history. The history of people and places. Let's start with places.
What are you looking for?
George Cruikshank owns the land that used to house the mental hospital.
If you say so. Strand was like the girl with the dragon tattoo on that laptop. He was clearly somebody who spent a lot of time researching this.
Yeah, he also comes across as somebody that knows what he's talking about.
Kind of stuff. He dug up an article about Mr. Cruikshank trying to skirt heritage laws. He wanted to tear down an old house. When they wouldn't let him, he rebelled and turned the place into a haunted house attraction. That house became the haunted mansion of Beale Street. Every Halloween, the place was packed.
Now, the haunted house in Beale Street, that kind of reminds me of, just kicks off that automatic reference in my brain to the house in Stephen King's It, when our group of protagonists, the Losers Club, as children, went in after Pennywise, or at least in the theatrical. It's been a while since I've read the book, but in the theatrical, the modern theatrical version of It, that's kind of what I'm picturing in my brain.
The neighbors gave in and let him tear it down. I guess they didn't like a good ghost story.
What if Cruikshank was trying to do something similar with the old strip mall?
That feels like a bit of a stretch.
Maybe. But I found that article along with the EMF readings in 15 minutes.
What about the flashlights? I knew I had him on this one. I was there. There's no way they could have been messing with those lights. They were plain old $3 flashlights. No high-tech chicanery there.
It's simple physics. Heat, expansion, and contraction. People like Emily Dumont and those reality television ghost hunters use this trick all the time. It's very common. When you turn a flashlight on, the bulb gets very hot. Then you unscrew the lid just a little until it turns off. Inside that really hot flashlight is a little bit of plastic that expanded when it was hot. Now that the light is off, that plastic cools and contracts and pushes two little bits of metal together to form a circuit.
The light goes on.
And when it heats up enough again?
Yeah, we actually used to do that when I worked in TDC. We do that to new officers come in. We had this cheap Eveready plastic flashlights on night shift for, safety and walking the runs and stuff. And we would do that basic same trick just to kind of screw with people.
Off.
The ghost hunters set us up?
Maybe, but in my experience, it's usually just apophenia.
Apophenia?
They really just want to believe, and to that end, they force supernatural meaning into meaningless events and patterns.
Wow. I couldn't help feeling a bit let down at such a simple, logical explanation. With very little effort, Strand cast a great deal of doubt on our haunted credit union, and he wasn't finished.
Yeah, science is like that. I've seen a meme going around the internet that says, your inability to understand science doesn't disprove it, which I kind of, agree with. Actually, I'm more than kind of agree with. I agree with it. So, yeah.
They told you they saw an apparition?
An old man.
Show them an old photo of somebody's great-grandfather. Tell them that he was a patient who died in that room. I'll bet you they tell you they recognize him.
I was surprised.
Yep. I'm not. What people would do for a buck, and especially back about 10, 12 years ago, maybe longer than that, when AMC and all those channels like that were doing all the ghost hunter shows. That that's kind of what it reminds me of.
I didn't want it to be true, but in the interest of getting to the truth, I took his suggestion. So, we dug up a photo of a man who died in the east wing of the hospital, right about where you and Donnie saw the apparition.
That's him. That's the man I saw.
Are you sure?
Positive. I'd recognize him anywhere.
Yep. Boom. Science.
Dr. Strand was right. I did have more questions about the mysterious credit union door, but I wanted to steer the conversation in a different direction. The mysterious black tape cases in that back room. So, if people and places are the key to most of these things, what's with all the high-tech ghost hunting equipment? That stuff can't be cheap.
It's definitely not cheap. We need to keep up to date with the latest technology so we know how everything works and how the data can be manipulated.
What's the difference between these white tape cases and the single row of black tapes in your equipment room?
Uh-oh, getting in there now. She's pushing that boundary.
Those are cases we don't have the resources or technology to disprove. Yet.
Yet being the operative word?
Exactly.
Can I take a look? This was it. The point of no return. I felt like Jack Lemmon's Shelley the Machine Levine from Glengarry Glen Ross holding out his pen for the Neubergs to sign. It felt like we sat in that office, in silence, forever. And then
it gets crazy, but or I would think it would get crazy, or one of two things are going to happen. He's either going to be, no, you can't, then acquiesce and let her, or no, you can't, and she's going to sneak in or sneak him out somehow, or he's just going to let her do it. Well, I guess that's three options, not two. Well,
Strand finally broke the spell. I'm Alex Regan. You're listening to the Black Tapes podcast. Stay with us. The Black Tapes podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audible.
Yeah, this does remind me of Strawberry Fields, the organ part Strawberry Fields by the Beatles. I mean, I don't know what it is. They don't sound real close together, but they're just, maybe it's the dun, dun, dun. I don't know. That's just what it reminds me of.
Trial.com/thebblacktapes. This week we recommend Don DeLillo's National Book Award-winning novel, Underworld. Visit www.audibletrial.com/thebblacktapes to download Underworld, or any one of Audible.com's more than 180,000 titles.
Yeah, I know this is only a commercial and all, but I do strongly recommend Audible, especially if you're getting up there like I am, and your eyes don't want to work real well with written, hard, good books. All books are good, but so yeah, audio books are nice. So I'm adding a commercial to a commercial. So yeah. Also YouTube. I'm not getting paid by Audible. So yeah. So yeah, it's not. I'm not endorsing them. Well, I guess I kind of am, but I'm not getting compensation from them or the people that do Black Tapes. This is totally me doing this for me.
I'm looking at old Super 8 footage of a boy's birthday party. There's nothing outstanding about it. Pretty standard stuff.
Super 8 film is really, really cool. Had a Super 8 camera as a kid. I don't know whatever happened to all the stuff that I did with it. But I imagine it's somewhere, someplace rotting probably.
No bouncy castles or magicians, and certainly no scary clowns. But I should back up a bit. Dr. Strand eventually agreed to let me take a look at one of the unsolved.
He acquiesced.
He would say unsolved yet, cases from that mysterious row of plastic black VHS containers that I'm going to refer to as the Black Tapes from this point forward. And yes, this is how we came up with the name of our podcast.
I like that, how self-aware they are in this podcast. Well, all of the podcasts that the Public Radio Alliance and Minnow Beats Well does, or do, or have done, I don't know. It's one of those tenses.
It looks like there were around a dozen or so VHS cases on that shelf. This birthday party is from what we're calling tape number 1.
So, what are we looking at here?
It's coming up. There.
What is that?
What do you see?
It's a man. More specifically, the shadow of a man. Sort of. It's a dark shadow in the background. It's standing right next to an old shed by a wire fence. It looks like a tall man wearing a hat, but its proportions are all wrong.
Yeah, proportions being wrong. For some reason, especially on the human form, tends to catch people's eyes.
It's impossibly thin. It could almost be mistaken for the shadow of a tree if it didn't look like it had arms and legs. But it's hard to tell.
I don't know. Depending on how misshapen it is, it could look like a tree, branches.
It's pretty grainy.
Okay, it's a shadow of maybe a man. Or a really weird-looking tree.
This man and woman, as they now desire
What am I
to
looking for
join
now?
together in that most
You'll
holy
see.
and righteous estate, that match.
I always hate that when you're looking at something like that and you're like, what am I looking for? They're like, you'll see it. You sure? You sure? I don't know.
I do.
And do you promise that you will love him, comfort him, honor and cherish him, in sickness and in health?
Okay. It's
Okay, that's wedding vows, not birthday stuff.
the same videotape, but a completely different scene. Different people altogether. It looks fairly contemporary, like it could have been shot in the last few years.
Will you perform unto him all of the duties and give him the respect that a wife owes her husband until God by death shall separate you?
I will. Okay, so I'm supposed to see something, right?
Yes. Do you see it?
It's like, where's Waldo? Is it in the foreground, back?
Waldo is in Spain, living high on the Riviera of Spain.
Background, in the pews? Where am I looking?
By the organist.
By the organist, okay. Oh my god.
Okay. That shadowy figure I just described in that kid's birthday party? It was there by the stage in the church behind the organist. It had the tall, skinny outline, the hat, and I swear, this time, I could see something like fingers. But maybe not. They were as long as my forearms. I don't know, but
Some Howard Hughes fingers going on there.
whatever it was, it looked creepy as hell.
So, what? People send you tapes of these shadow things?
Not quite. This is the wedding of Robert Torres. He lives in San Francisco, where they got married 3 years ago, as you just saw.
Okay.
That boy in the first section lived in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That tape was from his 5th birthday party. That was about 40 years ago.
Okay.
The boy's name is Bobby.
So,
Bobby Torres.
Bobby is Robert Torres.
Yes.
Oh my, so we may have a shadow man following us around.
So, those shadow thing is...
Whatever it is, it was there when Robert was 5. And it appears to be there again when Robert's 42.
It's following him?
I'm not comfortable speculating.
My producer Nick and I discussed it, and we're sure we have at least another episode worth of material with Richard Strand. So, in lieu of our original second episode, which was going to feature me digging into the fascinating and occasionally dangerous world of geocaching, we're going to finish up our story on Richard Strand and his mysterious black tapes. I'm starting to believe there are a lot of things in this world that I just don't understand.
I kind of like how they're segueing into the next episode, how this one little thing she found, these black VCR cases, sidelined her from her intended next episode. And I love how, because I've had that happen in my life, plan to do something, then have the plan, then something little small or something right beforehand just change everything.
Why would somebody spend so much time and effort, and probably a lot of money, to create a sophisticated fake child's birthday party film, and then repeat the feat decades later at his wedding? Is it Torres himself? If so, why?
Yeah, Torres may just be a little bit out there. We don't know. We'll find out, I hope.
And who is it for? Next week on the Black Tapes podcast.
Okay, I do understand what you're saying, of course, but I don't know. I just don't feel like I crossed the line.
No?
No, I don't think so. Do you think so?
You must be Sebastian.
Are you fighting with my mom?
Did it sound like we were fighting? We weren't. We were just talking about something very important, so our voices may have sounded worried.
Okay, this episode 2 is maybe really, really good, just based on this little preview we're getting.
But we're fine.
I know what you're talking about.
You do?
You're talking about my friend.
What friend?
Why are you following him?
Well, who says I'm following him?
He says you don't want to meet him.
That's some next level X-Files stuff going on there.
More on this, along with a lot more on Strand's mysterious black tapes, next week. The Black Tapes podcast is a National Radio Alliance and Minnow Beats Whale production. Recorded in Seattle and Vancouver, produced by Nick Silver, mixed and engineered by Alan Williams and Samantha Paulson. Edited by Nick Silver and Alex Regan. Executive producers Paul Bay and Terry Miles.
So there we have it. The end of episode 1 with some previews to think about going into episode 2. So until next time, everybody, be good. Be good humans. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?